What is up, YouTube? Matt M. Roy back once again. Let me turn this off here. Well. Hope everybody's doing well during this crazy time that we're living in. Long time no see. I do apologize for that. This was not announced. I wanted to give everybody out there some time to get here. Kind of give you guys a update on things that have been happening in my life. But first of all, let me say I hope everybody out there is doing well. Let me turn you around here so you can see my ugly mug and not necessarily all the work I'm having to do. I am incidentally not using the gimbal right now. This thing is iffy at best. This is that Xylo X-axis gimbal that I got for $50 from Best Buy. What is it? Wait a minute. Ziyun, Z-I-Y-U-N. I'm still trying to work the bugs out of this. The firmware, the latest firmware update that they put out for this is really buggy, so I'm waiting for the next one, and hopefully once that comes out, this will get more stable. Plus, I need to have some more time, but once that does happen, you can see she's still sitting down there. Hang on a second. Let me move the chair. You can see she is still sitting right down there in the corner. That is the computer that I am going to build for you guys and gals. My next replacement of that XPS 8700 that I've been saying I'm going to do for a while, and I am going to eventually get to it. But I'm going to give you some reasons why I haven't had a chance to get to it. If you saw the thumbnail, and if you saw more specifically the title of this live stream, Life is Kicking My Butt, that's what's happening right now. And I really can't complain because life is good, folks. I mean, I really can't. You know, I'm very blessed to have a place to live, to have a place to work, to have a place to, attempt to be happy. Because remember, the Constitution does not promise us happiness, it only promises us the pursuit of happiness. So, what has been happening lately? Well, I've had a lot of work lately, basically, a lot of repair work. A lot of data backups. People have been having their computers go down. I've had to do quite a few data backups, quite a few OS reinstalls, the usual suspects. But then I've also had to do a lot of building a rebuilding refurbished and making refurbished computers because people working from home now have to have systems. So between all that, plus a few other things, I haven't had time to do anything. I am still getting my exercises in, so don't worry about that. Those of you that come here to see my fitness information, I'm doing really well there. So that coupled with all the exercising, there's just not enough hours in the day. So that's pretty much what I have been doing lately. Who do we have here right now? Jeff is here. George Blakely's in the house. Jeff says, hi, Mr. Blakely. I know we got 6 people here. That is awesome. Let me turn you around real quick and show you what I've been up to. Okay, so basically I had to order this. This is a PCI Express SATA card. Nope, this is not the right bag. Hang on, folks. Okay, let's start it this way. So this is a customer's PC. This is one of those Samsung ATIV Book 9s. This has a 256 gigabyte SSD, but it's an mSATA SSD. And unfortunately, this computer was damaged by a surge. So even though it would boot up, none of the USB ports would work. So I was unable to crack the password that's on there. So my only other option was to go on eBay and purchase an adapter which allows me to take that mSATA drive and put it into this adapter, which basically just turns it into a SATA drive. And if you look really close, you could see it right there. If you look down there, you can see the Samsung mSATA or M.2 SSD there, and that's just plugged into my Initech focus, my Initech toaster, and I am actually actively transferring the data over right now, so it's almost done there. Don't worry, I didn't show anybody's personal data. So that was kind of a chore because I had to wait on that adapter to come in before I was able to get the data off. Now, a lot of you, let me turn you back around. A lot of you are probably saying, well, Matt, how come you just didn't put it into one of your computers that had a M.2 or an M-SATA slot? Well, there's a good reason for that. I actually don't have a computer that has that M.2 SSD port. My Dell XPS 8700 is the closest one, and that actually has the older M-SATA board-mounted SSD slot. So, unfortunately, in my case, that wasn't an option. Now that I think about it, and this was like a week after I'd ordered this this device, this little adapter, I've remembered that the computer that I'm going to be building, the one that's right down there, actually does have the right port, but it wasn't built. And I said to myself, you know what? I don't know if I'm ever going to get to it soon enough to build that computer, get it up and running, get all my security software installed, and then I'd have to go ahead and do the data backup. And I'm sure my client would not want it, would have not wanted. I can't talk today, folks. Would not want to have waited that long. So, all in all, I think this was the best option. And honestly, I didn't even know those things existed. So you can check on eBay. It's basically an M.2 SSD to SATA adapter. And the cool thing about that is, once I'm done getting the data off, you could put that in something like like I just showed there, one of those external drive toasters, or even into like an external hard drive enclosure, and that would allow you to use it as a spare drive. Because even though the laptop itself is dead right there, the drive seems to be okay. So it's always a good option. Who's this? Chris's Channel of Technology. Oh, we switched it up again, says hi, Matt. Mike Paradin is here from Montreal. I remembered that. My memory's not always good, but I did remember that. So how are you all doing out there? This is just going to be fairly quick. I'll probably do this maybe for about a half an hour, 45 minutes until I have to get going. But I will show you, I want to show you a computer that I'm actively working on right now, something that I was really surprised. I actually took a trip up to the Manassas area. More specifically, it was in Woodbridge. Mom and I took the Yukon up there this past Sunday because somebody had listed a lot of 11, wound up being 12 desktop computers for $350. Well, took a trip up there, uneventful. The Yukon was a trooper, although I need to give you guys an update on that. We picked up these computers. The guy actually threw in an extra tower because one of the ones he listed was missing the side cover, so he threw in an extra. Actually, threw in an extra 2 towers for parts. So I wound up. Looks like I'm be able to make maybe about 9 or 10 good systems out of this. But this one kind of surprised me. So let me turn you around here and show you what's going on. So I saw this computer. This is one of those HP Pavilions. Hang on, it's going to complain at me if I don't do this right. One of these HP Pavilions. This particular one is a 500 series. Now, a lot of the ones he gave me were the smaller versions of this that have the external laptop power supplies. This is the only one that I would call like a mini or a micro tower. But I was fully expecting to be able to upgrade the processor. I have a bunch of i5s sitting right here. This is an i5 3220. I have like a 3470 and a 3570 there. But when I took the heatsink off, to my surprise, this is actually an AMD A8 7600 CPU. So this was actually an AMD board. I had no idea this was actually an AMD board until I took that off. And that was a total surprise to me. Now, I pulled some of the other stuff off here, namely just to be able to get to the CPU. I pulled the 4-pin P4 connector. Incidentally, I find it ironic and kind of funny they still call this a P4 connector. Actually, they call it a P2. We used to call it a P4 connector because the first boards to use these were the Pentium 4 motherboards back in the day. So this one I'm going to refurbish. I already have 16 gigabytes of RAM in there. I'm waiting on some thermal paste because that was the last of the thermal compound or thermal paste that I had. And that's one thing you have to remember when refurbishing a computer. You always want to replace the thermal compound, especially in an AMD system because they tend to run hotter than Intel systems. And I usually use Gugon to take the old thermal paste or thermal compound, however you want to say it, off the CPU and the cooler, and then I just apply new and then put it right back on and screw it down. Got to do some more updates to this, and very surprisingly, it actually had a 2 terabyte Seagate conventional hard drive in there. So if this hard drive is still good, looks like it dates from about 2015. What I'll do is I'll pair this with a 240 gig solid state hard drive, and we'll have a bad little system there for somebody. This will make somebody a really, really good refurbished computer. Turn you guys around here. Let me see. Who is this? Mick Coaster. Nice. Still have removable M2 drives, not stuck to board, unlike Apple. Yeah, they like to solder their stuff in for sure. Biggest thing I hate about Apple now, I can't upgrade or recover data. Really, it fails. Yeah, most Apple products, the memory is soldered to the board, so the only option you would have would be to bring it to something like a data recovery center. I've run into that a few times. That's actually why I no longer work on Apple devices at all. Incidentally, if you like this content, give me a thumbs up. Take a minute, just give me a thumbs up. That always helps me out. Puts me higher up in the search results. Just keeping an eye on this. I think this is frozen again on this data backup. It looks like this M.2 drive may have been damaged indeed because there are a few things I haven't been able to get off of it, but the majority of the data, the important documents, the photos, and everything like that, pictures, all that stuff has been backed up. So fingers crossed it worked out well. Okay, so I promised I'd give you all an update on what's happening with the Yukon. Well, the Yukon I had to bring in to get inspected. And that's something in Virginia. A lot of you out there that live in the Midwest and stuff don't even have to deal with state inspections, but here in Virginia we do. So I brought it in for its state inspection, and I found out there are 2 problems. Number one, the third brake light, the LED brake light was out, so they had to order that. They're going to install that. That was not a big deal. That was number one. Number two, the parking brake was not working for some reason. Now, bear in mind, my Yukon is a little on the crusty side. It spent a lot of time up north. I knew that when I bought it, that it had a little bit of rot underneath. Nothing major, nothing that would cause it to really fail inspection. That's why I got such a good deal on it. However, I did not know that the rot had gotten into the parking brake. That's a four-wheel disc, all-wheel drive vehicle with four-wheel drive disc brakes. And what has actually happened is inside the rear axle where the parking brake assembly sits, it's all rotted out. So basically, I don't have much of a parking brake. Now, what they were able to do for me is they were able to fix it enough, basically make it work good enough so it'll pass inspection. It'll never be great, and it's been suggested that I don't use the parking brake unless I absolutely have to. Now, to be perfectly honest with you, I don't ever use parking brakes anyway. In an automatic vehicle, the transmission has its own parking brake, so they're really not even necessary. So that's what's happening there. Parking brake repair, and as much as it can be. And the third brake light is going to wind up being probably close to $300. So it's a little bit of an unexpected cost. Now, I will say this. That's about all I'm putting in this vehicle. If something else major happens to the Yukon, I'm going to junk it because it's just not worth putting the money in. It's an '05. It does have some rot and rust issues. Nothing, again, that would make it unsafe. However, you have like what's called the law of diminishing returns. There's a point in vehicles where you put so much money in, you're not going to get your money out of it. And the way I look at it now with that vehicle is I'm actually ahead of the game because I've used that vehicle to get about 4 or 5 truckloads, or in this case, Yukon Suburban loads of computers that I've refurbished. So if I calculate that versus what the vehicles cost me, I'm still way ahead of the game. And that's called utility. You might have learned that in economics class. I know I did. However, there is a point that it becomes stupid, in other words, to put more money into a vehicle that at the end of the day is not really worth that much. If I was to go put that vehicle for sale right now with the known rust issues, I might get $3,500 for it. So that's the update on the Yukon. The LeSabre is sold. My dad actually purchased that. I was going to sell that on Facebook Marketplace, but Dad wanted it, so I went ahead and sold that to him. And yeah, that's about it. What is that, Mikosu? No surprise, unless you have manual transmission when no one uses parking brakes daily. Very common failure on older vehicles, especially in the Rust Belt states. Absolutely. And you might be able to answer that, or one of you guys may be able to answer this for me. Why would you ever put a parking brake in a vehicle with an automatic transmission? Because I know that automatic transmissions have their own brakes. Now, I'm guessing it's probably just like an extra layer of protection. But for the most part, even when I'm in an area where you would use a parking brake, like on a hill or something, a lot of times, unless it's really bad hill, I don't even bother putting it on. So I don't know. It is what it is, though. There are times that I thought about getting rid of the Yukon because of those little piddly issues, but my mechanic says other than that, it is sound, and it could be a good vehicle for somewhat longer. Now, knowing the rust and the certain areas of rot on there, I would say I could easily maybe get another 2 or 3 years out of it, but at that point, it's just going to be ready for the scrap heap. Like that and my Tahoe, my 2 vehicles that I own now, are what we call driving into the ground vehicles. Those are vehicles that I will never sell for a profit. Those are vehicles that I am going to drive until the wheels fall off. Not literally, but you kind of get the picture. It's not like a brake, it's more like a pin that prongs wear out over time. That is true for drum brakes, but this is a disc parking brake, so this does actually have a brake pad. The problem is everything in there is so rotted out that it really doesn't have much of anything to grab onto. It does still technically work. It has to work. To some extent to pass inspection. So they tightened everything up, and it's just barely good enough to pass inspection. The good news is it's not going to get any worse because, 1, I'm not going to use it, and 2, I don't live in the Rust Belt. So it should be fine next year. I'll go back and get it inspected, and we'll see what happens. Hopefully she passes. You should always use it, but no one does. Ain't that the truth? Oh, I got you. The transmission uses a pin. Yes, you're right there. That's kind of how that brake works. But really, it's good enough for most things. All right, folks, I'm going to have to end the live stream here. I apologize if some of you didn't get to make it. I know I didn't really announce it. I just felt like I wanted to give you all an update. Just letting you know what was going on. I'm going to end it here. Let's see who's calling me right now. Hang on. Hello?
Trump mailed you an official absentee ballot request form. It should have already arrived.
Laura Trump was calling me. They mailed us an absentee ballot, making sure that we're going to go and use it and not actually go in person and vote. Well, guess what, folks? I'm going in person to vote because I do not trust absentee ballots. How's my mother and father doing? Mom and dad are doing great. Dad had the surgery. He had his right hip replaced, and he's doing great. Muscle is a little bit weak, but other than that, he's doing really well. Mom's doing great. She's just kind of relaxing today. And with that, I am going to end it. Thank you so much for coming. Please continue to like and subscribe. Stay tuned for that computer build video coming sometime. I promise you guys I'm going to do it. I just don't know. I don't want to promise something that I can't deliver. And as always, have a blessed day, everybody.